Hi everybody, and welcome back to the Stamperia Sunflower Art mini album tutorial series designed for Scrap and Create. If you are just joining me in the tutorial series, there is a complete supply list video showing you all the products that you will need to make this project. However, you can also click on the links in the description box below for all the products that are available on the Scrap and Create website. So check those links out, purchase those products, and follow along. In today's video, we're going to finish up decorating inside with the base of the page, and then we'll move on to decorating the cover. First, for the base of the page, I have a piece of the red solid paper. It measures 1 1/4 by 8 inches. I'm going to place this here at the top of my page, and then I'm going to adhere my pocket closed. To adhere my pocket closed, I've just put 2 strips of adhesive down the inside on both of these sides, and I'm going to just press this down and flatten it out. And I like to flatten out from center outward just to make sure that there aren't really any wrinkles in the way the pocket lays. Then I'll go ahead and adhere each side individually. From my yellow paper, I cut a piece to 2 1/2 by 8 inches. Then I ran it through my embossing folder, and then I cut this into 2 pieces that measure 1 1/4 by 8 inches. I'm going to place this one down here. This one's going to go up here, but I do need to use my decorative die on this one. So I'm going to fold this up for now. On the top portion, I'm going to mark this in the center, and then I'll use my die. Remember, in this one, we are using the edge in the center, lining up the top portion with the top of the die with the top of the paper, and then we're lining up the center with that first little curve section. I'll take this through my die cutting machine, then I'll switch this over here and cut one more side. This is the piece I'm going to place in the center between my 2 yellow pieces, and it's from the 12 by 12 paper. It measures 8 inches by 4 1/2. So there was, I think, a piece up here at the top maybe, and I just trimmed that off even with where the previous cut was. So it's 4 1/2 by 8 inches. I did have to trim, I think, 1/4 inch off the right-hand side. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere these 3 pieces down. For the photo mat in the large pocket on the base of the page, I'm going to remove this and cut a different piece. So I want it to be wider because of the paper that I want to use. So this is 7 inches by 2 3/4 inch. And then I cut this down. So this was 7 3/4. I cut 1/2 inch off, so now it's 7 1/4 by 7. And I'm going to first start with this. Covering the front of this, I've cut a piece from the 12 by 12 paper to 6 3/4 by 7 inches. And I'm just going to place this here on this page. Then I'm going to take my belly band and center it and adhere only the sides down to my mat. And then from the 8 by 8 paper, I had this leftover piece that I'm going to use for the front of my belly band. And this piece is cut, I cut just the green border off of it, and I have cut it down to 6 3/4 inches. So I'm going to adhere this to the front of my belly band, and then the sides of the belly band only to my photo mat. Now I have a piece of cardstock that measures 2 3/4 by 1 inch, and I'm just going to add some adhesive down here to one of the long edges. I've marked in here in the center on the bottom, and I'm just going to adhere this piece down to the bottom of this mat, basically on that cardstock at the bottom. And then I have a piece of my solid yellow paper that measures 3/4 by 2 1/2 that I'm going to place in the center of that cardstock piece. And what this is going to do, we're going to add some pull-out photo mats to this in the next video when we do all of the finishing touches. This will act as a stop so that whatever goes into this pocket, it will go underneath the belly band and then catch here so that it doesn't follow through when it's in that pocket. So for now, this is how we're going to leave the photo mat. Back is going to be plain like we have been doing throughout this build, and we will come back to that and add all of those finishing touches in the next video. So for now, I'm just going to slide this down inside of my pocket here. Now that all of the inside pages are complete for now, we'll go ahead and flip the pages up, down, and close the book. We are now ready to begin working on the cover. To begin the cover, we're going to first need 2 pieces of ribbon. I've cut mine to about 12 inches in length. I'm using the Graphic 45 ribbon here, and I have my center marked on my front cover. So I'm going to first add my adhesive to this center section, and I'm using Fabri-Tac for this. You can use whatever glue you prefer. And then I'm going to just go ahead and place about 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch of my ribbon end onto my front cover. Then I'm going to place my second ribbon up here on my spine. So I also have it marked in the center. And I'm going to place my adhesive here. And I don't actually need it to go all the way to the bottom. So I'm going to put about 1 inch of my ribbon end here. And then I'm going to make sure that these are lined up so that when we tie these closed, they tie in the right position. I'm going to set this aside while it dries and prepare the mats for the cover. So I first cut 1 piece of the yellow to 8 1/4 by 8 1/4. Now this is going to be the exact size of the front cover. I'm not going to leave a cardstock border. So once you cut your piece, you want to bring it over here and then make sure that it is the same size. If it's too large, go ahead and trim it down just a little bit so that it is going to fit on here perfectly. Now, if you do want a small border, you can just go ahead and trim this a little tiny bit, but you might have to make some adjustments to the other pieces as well. From my red, I have cut a piece to 8 inches by 8 inches. I'm going to place this right in the center here first before I place this onto my cover. So I'm going to adhere these down and then I'll apply it to my cover itself. For one of the sides, we're going to be using this paper here. This was attached, so I've cut this to a 1 1/2 inch strip. Then I've cut this strip to 8 1/8, and I first cut off this end, and then I trimmed it here so that this sunflower was still on it, and I had these sunflowers. So this piece, I'm going to place here on this spine piece. Now I'm going to have it going with the sunflowers, the main sunflowers here at the bottom. That way if my book is sitting like this flat, you can actually read it. If I put it this way, it would be upside down if it was sitting flat. So that's why I'm going to put my paper here like this. From this 12 by 12 paper, I cut first a small portion off, about 1/8 of an inch off of the right hand side to try to center this image a little bit more. Then I cut a 2 inch strip off of the page and I trimmed this to 8 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to place this here on this spine. From this 8x8 paper, I first cut a 1/2 inch off of the top, and then I cut a 1-inch strip, and we're going to use these 2 pieces for the other 2 spines. So the smaller of the pieces is going to go here on the bottom, and then the larger of the 2 pieces will go here on the top. I've taken my quilted pattern rice paper and just cut the last 3 rows of squares off. This is what I'm going to be using for my back cover, and I'm just going to cover the entire thing with rice paper. Now, if you want this to match the front cover and you want to layer up the yellow and the red paper and then put this on, you can. You just have to trim this down a little bit to fit on your cover. I'm going to be using Mod Podge and a foam brush to do this. If you have a different way that you prefer to do this, you can do it however you want. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start by attaching just a little tiny bit, and then I'm going to roll that back, and I'm going to brush the Mod Podge on, and I'm going to start pushing my paper on. Now this is going to be very sticky, so you have to be very careful how you work with this and just do little bits at a time. The advantage of using a glass cutting mat is that I can just put my Mod Podge right on my surface and not worry about it. It's kind of nice to be able to do that when I'm using mixed media products, and I can just wipe them off or scrape them off after they dry. So I'm just first putting a thin layer of my Mod Podge just down at the bottom edge. And then I'm going to take my paper and actually put it at the top first, positioning this on the paper or on the cover where it needs to go. And then I will lay it into my Mod Podge once I have that down. So now that I have that down, I can smooth this little section that I have the Mod Podge to get it stuck. And then I'm going to pull my paper back. And then I'm just going to brush another layer on, making sure that I coat this whole entire thing. That way every piece of my rice paper sticks down to my cover. And then I'm just going to put it back in place and then smooth up a little bit more. Then I will roll back, and I'm going to keep repeating this process all the way up the cover until it's finished. Once the rice paper is on, you can take a second coat of Mod Podge and apply it over top of your rice paper, and I'm just taking it slightly over the edges as well to make sure that that is adhered to my cover. And I'm just going to brush the entire surface to seal my rice paper. Once I have my entire surface covered with the Mod Podge, I'm just going to leave this sit to dry, and then we'll work on the front cover. For my front cover, I will be using the rice paper with the red chalk. I've trimmed from the bottom 8 1/4 inches. And then I have my final sheet of chipboard. I've cut this down to 7 3/4 by 7 3/4. And I'm going to be placing this on the back side. And what I'm going to do, I will set my chipboard on top of here to start. And then I'm going to take my Mod Podge and apply it to just this small little overhang. Then I'm going to wrap it over the edge. So when I flip this over, I'm going to make sure that everything is smoothed down. And now I'm going to take this, just like I did with the previous piece on the cover, and I'm going to start in this direction, just adding a little bit of my adhesive. And then I will flip this up and pull it tight and then smooth it down. And then I'm going to just keep working this Mod Podge and rice paper down the rest of my chipboard piece until the whole front is covered. Once the entire piece is covered, I'm going to flip over, and then I'm going to add my adhesive to my little tiny piece hanging over the edge, and then fold this over. Now I'm going to push these corners in. And then I will add my adhesive to these ones to completely wrap my chipboard. Just like with back cover, I'm going to add a layer of Mod Podge on the front. I'm just going to brush a layer across the entire surface to cover this. And then I'm going to let this dry before I finish assembling the album cover. Now that both of my cover pieces are dry, I can go ahead and place this on my album. If it has any bit of curve or bend to it, just go ahead and flatten it back out. And then we're going to be placing this straight down into the center of the cover. And I'm just going to be using my regular tacky glue to do this. You don't need to use the Mod Podge since there's only a little bit of the rice paper. I mean, you can use Mod Podge if you want to, but the tacky glue will be just fine. Once I have my cover here adhered to the front, I'm going to flip this open actually. And I'm going to press this from this side so that the cover is laying flat when I do so. If I do it when the book is closed, there's going to be some bend in that center part just because of the way the album would flex, because there is some extra room so that we can add photos and still have enough space. So I will just go ahead and leave this sit like this until it's dry, and then we will come back and build up that front cover. I'm not going to add very many things to my front cover, but from my little packet of charms from Scrap and Create, I have one of my smaller metal corner pieces. I'm going to use the Mod Podge for this, and I'm going to just apply one of these corners up here to the top right corner. Next, I have this ephemera piece with the pot of sunflowers. I'm going to peel the backing off of the entire piece first. Then I'm going to take some of my foam squares and place them on the backs. So I've got my little foam squares that I'll place on the back of the sign. And then I'll take my larger foam squares and apply them where I can And where I can't, I'll take my smaller foam squares. Once I have all of my foam squares on, I'm going to go ahead and remove all of those backs. And then I'm going to place my sunflower pot down here at the bottom. Just a little bit above the bottom edge of the cover piece, and make sure that that is adhered down. And now I have one of my little sunflowers that I'm going to place here. You can place an extra layer if you want more dimension. I'm not going to though, but I am going to place one of my smaller squares on the leaf, and then one in the center. So that should be enough so that it will be supported while this is stuck to the front. And I need to remove these because I forgot to take the back off of this piece. So first we need to remove that paper backing. Then I will reattach my pieces and remove the backing off of my foam pieces. Then I'm going to add this here. And now this is all that I am going to add to my cover because I just want to be able to see the rice paper images, and I don't want to put anything that's going to cover those up.
The final thing I'm going to do is take some glossy accents, and I'm going to cover the windshield of the truck with glossy accents so that it is shiny. When it dries, it'll look like the windshield is glass.
I'm going to do the same thing with the window on the side. So there's this little tiny triangular shaped window in front of the mirror, and then there is the side window. I'm going to let this completely dry before I do anything else to it. And then once this is dry, we will come back in the final tutorial video. We're going to be finishing up all those photo mats that we have left blank, adding some extra tags and different things into those pockets. So that's it for this tutorial. And if you have just joined in the tutorial series, don't forget to check out the links in the description box below for all of the sunflower art products that are available on the Scrap and Create website. You can just click on those links, purchase those products, and follow along. See you in the next tutorial.